guys, it's Jackie with Intoxicating Arts, and today we're going to make 2 cards with custom glittery embellishments and matching glitter paper. And to start off, I'm doing the backgrounds here. So first I sprayed this piece of cardstock with some water from a Mr. bottle, and then I'm just tapping on some color burst in the color ultramarine blue. I always forget to use these because they're not as popular as they once were, but they're still just as awesome. So I do put them on while the paper is wet, just so it has something to stick to, and then I spray more water on there to kind of spread it out and dilute it a little bit. Now I'm going to use one of the sprays that was included in this kit, this really deep pretty blue, and I did 5 sprays, 1 in each corner and a little one in the middle. And then I'm going to grab the clear kind of white spray that was included, and I'm doing quick short little bursts with that to not use a ton of it. And it actually has quite a bit of kind of a gold type shimmer in there, really pretty. And I love that these came with mixing balls to mix up that mica. So I'm just spraying a little bit more water on there to make sure that this color is going to move around a lot, and I am just using a cheap piece of like 80 or 90 pound paper here. It's actually not watercolor paper, so it will warp quite a bit, but I always mat it on something so it's not a big deal. And then, since I have so much color on here, I'm going to pull another piece of paper and put that on top so that I can end up with 2 backgrounds. So just going to smush that around on there and make sure that I get the entire background covered with some color. And then I can just dry this off with my heat tool. And you'll see here that they already look very different, because the one that I sprayed directly is holding on to a lot more of that shimmer from the white one. All right, so moving on to the next part, I dried them off, and then now I'm going to add some black. This is a Dylusions Black Marble ink spray, and I'm going to spray it a couple times and then majorly dilute it with some water. Then, in order to get it kind of like, you know, that galaxy type feel, I'm going to blot it with a baby wipe here. So just to kind of move the color around, give it kind of like this texture to it, and have the color peeking through. And it's also really diluted, so it's not going to be super dark. So yeah, that was just what I wanted to try to see what it would do. And I really like the way that this one comes out by doing that blotting. And then I'm just going to do the same thing on the other one. So here you see I actually used a little, even like less black on this one, and I'm blotting that around, and it started to pull some of the initial color up, which is good and bad. So I decided to go ahead and spray a little bit more of the blue spray mist that was included in the kit. So I'm going to give that 2 sprays here and then dilute it again with some water. And just doing this one different step, and the fact that I pulled this from, you know, the color from this one off of the other one, makes these 2 backgrounds completely different. It's so crazy how the same colors, yet they look totally different. That one has less of that gold type shimmer on it, and it's a lot darker, but it's also less detailed. It's kind of more of a bland background. So really interesting how, you know, you always need to try things because they can come out completely different just doing one little thing different. Okay, so these are some stars that I got from the Wish app, and if you haven't been on that app yet, it's awesome for really cheap craft supplies. And these are just some wood laser cut stars, and I'm going to color them using my embossing dabber. An embossing dabber is just a dabber that has an embossing ink in it, but it's in like a really fluid form. So if you don't have one of these, you could definitely use a Versamark pad. The only reason I'm even using the dabber is because I have one, and it was made for using it on pieces like this. So I figured I might as well go ahead and use it. This is a product made by Ranger that came out a little while ago. And around the same time, they came out with this powder. It's an embossing powder sticky. And this powder will allow you to stick things like glitter and flocking directly onto embellishments or paper or whatever. So it's kind of cool. You don't have to have like an embossing powder glitter. You can just pull whatever glitter you have. So the way that this works is you want to heat it up until it gets clear, and that means that it's now activated and it is sticky, and then you can dump your glitter on top of it. So one thing that I show later in the video is that you actually do want to heat it back up again so that the glitter actually really gets clung into that sticky embossing powder. Otherwise, you can rub your finger over it and it will actually just fall right off. So I'm using these two different Martha Stewart glitters, and I'm doing them one at a time just because if I put my heat tool directly over top of the wood piece, it won't blow around, and then I can just, you know, not have to worry about grabbing tweezers or whatever. So it's kind of my lazy way to do it. Now I'm going to trim down those background pieces. I tend to keep the background pieces in a larger dimension than I'm going to use in the end. That way I can trim them down and keep the part of that I like the most. And then I'm going to mat those onto black and blue cardstock. One of the cards is going to have both colors and one is just going to be matted on black. And I'm going to tape the back of the background piece with ATG adhesive, and I'm adding quite a bit because this is warped pretty bad since it's not watercolor cardstock. And as long as you really put a ton of adhesive on the back and mat it on some cardstock, that takes care of that issue, and you don't have to use something really expensive, especially when you're using sprays, because you're not going to get pilling. And then I threw in the dimensions here in case you are making these cards exactly how I made them. You can. So now I'm going to move on to making the glitter paper, and I'm using this, it's actually a Nina Solar White. It's like 80 or 90 pounds. It's the cheaper version, so I'll make sure to link that. But Versamark ink pad here, that's an embossing ink. So this is the embossing ink in the ink pad form instead of like the dauber like earlier. And then using that same embossing powder sticky, and all I have to do is heat that up until it looks clear, and then I'll be able to throw my glitter on top. So this is going to give me my matching paper for my stars. I'm just going to dump the glitter all over it here. And look at how cool that is. It actually got some really good coverage on the first try. So it's a pretty easy technique to do. Just going to show you that one more time here. So I put the Versamark on both of these pieces of paper at the same time. Then I dumped that embossing powder sticky, heated it up, and then immediately dump the glitter on top of that. And this time I remembered to do it inside of this folded up piece of paper, so it makes it really easy to funnel the excess glitter back into the jar. Now I'm going to glue these stars onto my background, and this is kind of just the layout that I went with. I personally like the way that it looks better on the smaller background piece, just because of the size of those stars. I feel like they fill it out a little better on the smaller one. Now I'm going to use a piece of vellum and the Versamark again to do a sentiment on here. And this time I'm going to use some black embossing powder by Hero Arts to finish off my sentiment. And I think this embossing powder looks awesome. It's very rich and deep in color, and always make sure to use a like a little embossing tool that takes the stick off of your paper, especially when you're using a black embossing powder, because those little specks all over the place can really mess up the way that it looks. Zoomed in here a little bit so you guys can see the magic of embossing in case you haven't seen it before. You can see that it gets a lot darker, and it definitely gets glossy, and that's how you can tell that you're done with needing to apply the heat and that the transformation has happened. So just showing that one more time here, really cool. It's always fun to watch. just wanted to say really quick, sorry for all the baby noises in the video. I know it can be a little distracting, but she's kind of one of those kids that I'm either going to hold her or she's going to be crying in her crib. So I prefer to just hold her. So I hope you guys don't mind. She's going to be one pretty soon here. It's gone by really fast and I really enjoy making videos. So I'm just kind of trying to, you know, go with it. So here, all I'm doing is trimming a little fishtail into this vellum piece, and the easiest way you can do that is by cutting up the middle first and then meeting the sides to the middle. And, oh, there's her little hand helping me. So if I seem a little distracted and saying a lot of ums in this video, that's another reason why. So anyways, you can see right here, I just rubbed the glitter right off of that piece, and that's because I didn't know that I needed to like reheat set that at the end to get it like really embedded in there. So that's what I'm doing right now. Luckily, it wasn't too late and it just fixed itself by me running the heat tool over it right here. And then I run my finger over it just to double check, and it is completely stuck in there. I really, really love the way that this glitter paper comes out, and I hope to do this more often in the future, especially with Christmas coming up. Like, yes, it's gonna look awesome. All right, so obviously whenever you have vellum, you have to figure out a crafty way to get it adhered to your piece, and brads are kind of my go-to on that. Luckily, I have a ton of them from back in the day. I just kind of load it up on them, and then so all you got to do is poke a little hole here and there and put a brad through it. So you can see the one on the left hand side I've already done with one silver brad on the left side. Because I put that little fishtail in there and it's like a banner, I figured that would be fine. And then on this one I have it going all the way across, so I'm going to do one on each side, and I'm trying to keep one kind of like silvery and the other one more white. So that's kind of what happened there. Here's the dimensions you need in case you want to make those banners to have your cards exactly like mine. I personally love the one on the left, and I'm not a huge fan of the one on the right, but I made both of them, so I figured I'd show them to you guys. You might like the one on the right. That's totally fine. So anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to be back soon. Bye, guys.